It's time for UFC 123 with two great fights coming up. Rampage Jackson versus Machida and Penn versus Matt Hughes. And the rest of one of the worst cards in UFC history. So bad that on the homepage of the UFC today, only three of the fighters didn't even have a picture or a photo by the name. Just a bunch of fighters that no one knows, no one cares about except their moms, and couldn't draw a crowd at a strip club. But that's what the UFC has become. A bunch of no-name, no personality, no-class fighters that the public simply doesn't care about, and that we only watch because we want to see some action, and that too has become pretty slow in the UFC lately. But more about the UFC later and its lack of sizzle. But it's time for my predictions. And the only two fights that really matter in the entire thing, Jackson and Hughes. And although my reputation was hurt last time, and for the first time in over 120 fights, I was wrong when I picked my once hero, Brock Lesnar, to beat Velasquez. I was wrong, and I admitted it. I'm going to be right on these two fights, so you can take your unemployment check and call your friends and find out where you can steal the fight and bet it all and double your $150 a week that you're getting now. Well, let's go to the first fight. Rampage versus Machida. Rampage is an arrogant has-been who has destroyed his reputation with his appearance on Tough by acting like a complete and utter asshole and then going on to lose to Evans in their fight. Lack of action, Jackson is over the hill and through the woods and out of contention for ever being a UFC champion again. But at least he has his great acting career to fall back on, or in this ring he's going to have his ample back to fall back on after Machida knocks him out. Yes, as overrated as Machida is, and don't forget, the UFC was promoting the era of Machida, and it lasted for two whole fights. He is better than old age Jackson. He will kick him, punch him, and basically knock him around before beating him or knocking him out. Now, we don't have to worry about it going to the ground because the only two things these fighters know how to do on the ground in the case of Jackson is eat, and in the case of Machida is to drink some piss. Well, here's the way we see it. It's going to be a lot of action in the first round. They're going to be walking around and once in a while throwing some punches, and then Jackson's going to get tired and start thinking about, I really need to get back into acting and get out of this punching business, and Machida will put him to sleep. It might go the distance, but we doubt it. But we can tell you this, it will not be the action-packed punch thing, because neither fighter can go 3 rounds like that, especially not old age, no action Jackson. It's time for acting Jackson to get back to his roots and remember that he used to be a fighter and actually learn how to punch again. But that's not going to happen. He's going to lose to Machida. Now here's the fight that we will pay to see. Two of the greatest fighters in UFC history, Mighty Matt Hughes and the prodigy Penn. I just love these two guys. They're two of my favorite fighters, and they are really a class act, both of them. But alas, the once mighty Penn just doesn't have it in him anymore to be the champion. He has too good of a life. He enjoys himself too much in Hawaii, and he'd rather be surfing or swimming or partying. And he will be sent back to Hawaii asleep or with a broken arm by Matt Hughes, who is arguably the greatest pound-for-pound fighter in UFC history. Not one of these hyped-up guys, but a real fighter who wins consistently. Matt Hughes would still be the champion today if it were not for George Slippery St. Pierre and his greasy techniques he used in their two fights, and which he perfected against Penn in their fight, and which subsequently was outlawed by the Nevada Boxing Commission. So, unfortunately, the Canadian Bacon Master will not be fighting either one of these gentlemen, although we'd like to see that and would pay to see it again. But the Canadian Bacon King will not be fighting. And let's get back to who is going to win in this fight. Hughes is going to beat Penn. Now, BJ is incredible on the ground, but he's really only great on the ground against jiu-jitsu players and bad boxers. He is not going to do his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu against Matt Hughes' American Jiu-Jitsu and American wrestling. Hughes will simply outpower him and beat the crap out of him. BJ is a great fighter and I love him dearly, but Matt Hughes is the master and he is going to take it to Penn. I don't know whether he's going to knock him out or submit him, but he is definitely going to win this fight. You can bet on it, folks. And when he lays the smack down on BJ and his shiny head will go back to Hawaii and have a great life. And we'd love to see a rematch between BJ or Hughes against Slippery Pierre, if it would happen. Now, a brief word about the other fights coming up. Some of them will knock somebody out. A bunch of the fights will go the distance. There'll be no action. You won't remember the fighters' names. They have no future. None of them are going to be champions. And if they are champions, they're only going to win 1 or 2 fights. Because that's what's happening in the UFC today. They just don't stay champions. We can't build a personality. We can't build a following because they come and go too much because it's just too hard of a sport. I'll discuss that more. But right now, let's once more emphasize who's going to win. It's going to be Machida and it's going to be Hughes. This is Grandmaster Gambadella. I'll see you after the fight.